Hi guys and gals, welcome to T.A.B. Videos. Glad you stopped by. Today we've got episode 4 on what we really think. By request, striker fire versus hammer fire. Hammer fire, we've got the CZ75 SP01 Phantom. Striker fire, we've got the Springfield Echelon. SIG P365, the Ruger LCP 380 Max, which is internal hammer. So we've got these. We just thought we'd fill that request that we had. I own these. These three are Dan's. The Ruger's mine. We got nets flying around here. We just thought we'd throw this video out here while we're out here today and get it done. Of course, CZ, all these guns has been press checked. What can you say about CZ that hasn't already been said? Of course, hammer fired. This is a decocker model. The Ruger LCP 380 Max, internal hammer. Springfield Echelon, striker fire. And a SIG P365 striker fire. All are great guns. I enjoy shooting striker fire, hammer fired. I pretty much was raised on hammer fired guns, mostly revolvers. So it's all a matter of choice and experience. Personally, for a new shooter, I prefer hammer fired, just because you have to work the trigger a little bit harder than you do with striker fire. Striker fires takes a little bit of experience, otherwise you could have some accidental, a new shooter not ready, and boom, you know, they can send it off and down to where it shouldn't be. So let's get some of Dan's perspective on this stuff.
Well, I'm going to take the opposite opinion. One of the advantages with the hammer fire handguns is that the single action trigger pull is typically, in most cases, very light. Much lighter than the majority of striker fire handguns. So that's where I feel a negligent discharge could take place, is because of the lightness of the trigger. Now, this is a double action, single action. 99% of the time, people are going to be shooting it in single action. They're going to charge the slide, and then they're going to begin shooting. Very light. This is what the experienced shooters enjoy, light trigger fires, especially when you have one with an optic and the very short reset. The one thing that the striker fire offers is consistency, the same pull every time. For example, this has a pretty light trigger pull, 5 pounds with the Echelon. The SP01 Phantom has a 4 1/4 pound trigger pull. Both great, but this is a little bit lighter. The advantage with the striker fire, and you will find that many people carry handguns with striker fires. A good example would be the P365. I don't know if your LCP Max would actually, like, it has the same function even though it is hammer fired, but this is more of a true hammer fired than the LCP Max because that's internal. But most carry guns that I've seen and people I hang out with, including myself, I carry striker fire handguns. It's the consistent trigger pull. Very few people will ever shoot this in double action. So I have a personal place in my heart for each. If I'm a competition shooter, I'm going to go with the hammer fire. You look at the 1911s. You can't beat that trigger. I don't care if we're talking hammer fire, striker fire, campfire. You cannot beat a 1911 trigger pull. It's so light in most cases, and the reset is very short. I love those. I love them. And if you've seen the popularity of the double stack 9mm, you will know that people are buying them like crazy because of the light, short trigger pull and the mag capacity. The mag capacity on either is a wash. Now this has 18 rounds, this has 20 rounds. So you're not going to see a great difference there. It's basically the trigger mechanism. It's a matter of preference. I love the hammer fired for accuracy because the short, lightweight trigger pull, shorter reset. I love the striker fire for consistency with the same trigger pull essentially every time. And I think that's why a lot of people will carry that. So I'll get your thoughts at this point.
Okay, well, when I said for a new shooter, I'm not thinking of them carrying it in the single action. I'm thinking if you wanted to carry this, now this doesn't have a safety on it, so you can't carry it cocked and locked to get that light trigger. And like my P07, I always carry it with the hammer down. So that means that I've got to work at pulling that trigger. It ain't just put my finger on it and just ease it. It's definitely more than 5 pounds. Probably closer to 7 or 8. Might not make a difference.
Maybe 10 to 12 actually.
Is it that heavy?
A lot of them are.
This one don't feel that heavy.
That one's not, but some are.
But now my CZP07, I'll give it to you. That's probably a 10 pound. So if you got that and you happen to use this for self-defense and you don't practice keeping that finger on the side, you put your finger on that trigger, at least you got to make sure that you're going to pull that trigger. It ain't like take up that slop and just be ready and then bang, you know. That's just my argument for that. They're both great. If you shot either one of them, no matter what you get, you should practice. I've heard of guys going into a gun store, buying a gun, a holster, get out in the parking lot, put it on. Their first gun. I don't think that's the way you should do things, but that's a whole nother argument we ain't going to get into. But for a new shooter, I just feel like a hammer fired is the better opportunity. But I'm happy with either one of these. I've shot, well, I have striker fires, I've got hammer fires, so I've got a 1911, so I'm good with them all. I've carried my 1911 in the cocked and locked because that's the only way you're going to do it. I mean, you could carry it on a dead trigger, but I don't want to, if I have to defend my life, have to worry about cocking that hammer. That's just me on this. Of course, you make the decision for yourself. However you want to go with it, it's fine with me. It's just my opinion. I'm sure we'll get some comments both ways, and that's all right. We want that. We want the feedback. Do you have anything else?
Well, let's take a minute and talk about the LCP Max. You mentioned new shooters. Okay, and a lot of people say, well, I'm a new shooter and I want the smallest gun possible. That is the worst idea ever. And this is a hammer fire gun. Well, let me explain why. Because the shorter barrel, the, let's just say, difficulty in being accurate with a subcompact versus a full size is like night and day. I think a new shooter should be trained on a striker fire handgun that is large so they can get that confidence and then over time move to something like this. But since we're talking about hammer fire, this is, and we did check clear here, this is a internal hammer fire. We see these not just on this but on other ones.
Right.
The Security 9 has the exact same trigger mechanism and it is hammer fired. You just don't necessarily see the hammer, but it's in there. So both are proven platforms. Both will do, in most cases, exactly what you need them to do. It's a matter of preference, and if you're like either of us, you'll love both. But I just wanted to take a minute to talk about that and the many handguns that have the internal hammer. We see that even with revolvers.
Sky.
Yeah, Sky has it too. So both great. Both, you know, I don't know many people that say, well, I will only use this or I will only use that. Most people like a variety of them. I think both of us agree that we like a variety of them. but there are differences, and those are worth considering when choosing a pistol.
I do agree with you that your first pistol shouldn't be one of these micro compacts, just because of what Dan said. They take some time and to get used to it. And of course, the trigger's heavier. So that we can't agree on. But that's good that we got some different opinions here. You guys make your final choice. Anybody that's new to shooting, you can take this to heart. Go either way you want to. Like I said, it's fine with me. I'm sure it's fine with Dan. You do what you need to do. But Dan did mention key, and I mentioned it. Train with it, whichever one you get. Don't just go into a gun store and buy a gun, put it in your pocket, and you're ready to take on the world. Because it ain't going to work like that, I don't think. In any situations that I've seen, anyway.
One more thing is that when people say, well, all I need to do is shoot from here to here, like that's what I'm training for. You hear that statistic all the time. That statistic is, we can't predict crime, and criminals don't make appointments. So you may have to make a shot that's 8 to 12 yards. That's why you need to train, and a smaller gun is not your greatest choice for a new shooter. I wanted to clarify that and make that point.
And that's absolutely right. Your average, from what I understand through FBI and stuff, your average shooting distance is within 21 feet, 7 yards. Now the tooler drill, from that assailant or whoever it is, you get a healthy person that's running at you. Technically, from it's been proven on some of the classes, it takes a healthy young man 1.5 seconds to reach you. Now stop and think about that. You've got to draw, get up, and get that gun on it within 1.5 seconds. I can't draw and fire in 1.5 seconds, not for an accuracy shot. And just remember, whatever comes out of this barrel, you're accountable for it. If you like videos like this, hit that like, subscribe, and bell notification. Of course, appreciate a share. Comments are definitely welcome. Thanks for watching. God bless America and our armed forces, past and present.